Okay, so for your wide knee child's pose, take your knees out really wide. The toes stay together. I'll just pin myself in a moment. Toes stay together. And reach your arms forward. Relax. You can put a block under your forehead if you want to. I shall mute you all and spotlight myself. Now, when you're in your wide-kneed child's pose, you can take whatever you need, whatever props you need underneath you. Excellent. So beginning in your wide-kneed child's pose, just begin to soften into the mat using a prop or anything under your forehead. And start to let gravity pull you deeper. And as you settle, just ask yourself where the body speaks to you first of all. Do you feel this in your back, through the groin, the adductors, or through the shoulders? And do you know that with yin, if any particular part is uncomfortable, then modify. You can place a blanket under your feet or between your hips and your ankles. Make sure that you are relatively comfortable. And in this pose, at the beginning of this class, we are aiming for length and a beautiful alignment through the spine. If it becomes too much, then feel free to cross your arms, the elbows, and maybe stack your hands, rest your forehead. And that's particularly the case for some of you who have had issues with their pectoral muscles or their underarms. Kerry, you might like to cross your arms after a while. Keep letting the hips settle, sink towards the mat. Imagine that somebody is pulling your hips back. So the spine has a chance to lengthen. It feels like you're creating more space between each vertebra. And as we hold this pose just for a few minutes, for another minute or two, just begin to slow your breathing. Feel a long, deep breath. Feel the expansion through the ribs. Notice the effect this has on your back. And as you breathe out, see if you can sink even further. So the sequence of this class today will start with this soft lengthening. We'll move straight into a soft flow, which does emphasize opening up through the hip flexors. And after a flow, we will finish with a couple of yin poses. And today the emphasis is very much on back and shoulders, particularly the pectoral muscles, the front of the shoulders. Take another 3 breaths here. And after your 3rd breath, walk your hands back. Come up onto a kneeling position. Take your feet wide, so just so that they're towards the edge of the mat. We're going to rise into down facing dog in this wider position. So tuck the toes under, pull in strongly through the belly and start with a bit of a cat. And then take the weight into your hands, let the knees hover and come into a wide down dog. And from your wide down dog, just bend alternate knees. Take whatever feels good. It might feel better for you to come to the knees again and then come back up. You might want to rock forward a little into a semi-plank and then back into down dog. Or you might find stillness here. Shake the head. Take 3 more long, deep breaths. And as you breathe out, really press fingers into mat and push your ribs towards your thighs. After the 3rd breath, bring your knees to the mat. Take your toes onto the mat. Bring them in so the toes touch and come back into a seated position. And just roll through the shoulders, loosen up through the shoulders. Inhale, arms rise, and exhale, take hands behind. Press the knuckles down. If it's too painful here, stay up on your knees. Inhale, arms rise, lifting up. And as you exhale, take both hands to your lower back. Your toes are still touching. Knees are still quite wide. Just gently draw the elbows back, eye gaze drifts up. And then roll back down and come onto all fours. Hands under shoulders. Flick the toes out to the width of the mat. Toes come under again. Round the spine as though you're coming into a lovely cat. Let the knees hover and make your way to down facing dog again. So nice and wide with your down dog. A few long deep breaths, just establishing some stability. And bend your knees. And any way you can, take your left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. The right knee comes to the mat and climb back up into a hip flexor stretch. So you're still in this super wide position, which might feel a little bit odd. Inhale, both arms lift. And as you exhale, take hands behind your body. Press the knuckles down, opening up. And then roll the body forward. Bring the hands in. Take the forearms, if you can, to the mat, or maybe just the hands. And we're going to stay here for a few moments just to really get into that hip. Lots of options. Option 1, if your forearms are down, or even if they're not, tuck your toes, lift the back knee. And then begin to drop through the hips. That's quite intense. Maybe a little movement. You don't have to stay stuck or stable. And then bring your hands back, center. Keep the toes tucked under from the back leg and step back to down facing dog. But again, it's quite wide. So make sure the feet are really wide here. 2 long deep breaths. And then bend the knees and lightly step the right foot forward. Take the back knee down as you just find your center. The foot is wide. You might walk down to the forearms. It might feel too much. You might tuck the toes under and lift the back leg. One side might be really quite different to the other. And remember, a little bit of movement helps, just a slight rocking or a little bit of a side-to-side motion. Maybe coming back and starting again. And then hands come to the inside of the foot. Tuck the toes under, lift the back knee. Power back to your wider down dog. Stay in your wide down dog. The knees come to the mat. Toes come together. And back into child's pose. Wide knee child's pose. Arms stay in front. This time imagine you have somebody pulling your fingers forward and somebody else pulling your hips back. You walk the hands back. Stay on your hips. Inhale, out, lift. And as you exhale, take your hands behind, interlace fingers, and create a little more space between your arms and your back. And hands come forward to the mat. Keep your toes lightly touching together. Right hand moves to the center, so it's right under your nose, and left arm lifts up. From this position, slide the left arm under, all the way under. Come back into your child's pose and relax. So just stretching the outer shoulder and the upper back in these early stages before we move into our flow. Take a couple of breaths here. This should feel quite nice. It's a nice, soft, subtle twist through the spine as well. Slowly come back out. Hand is center. Lift up into your beautiful wide twist again. Stay in that position and let the arm drift open even further. Hand comes down. Now change hands. So the opposite hand is underneath your nose, right underneath your shoulder. Take a deep breath in, press into both knees and into your toes as you lift through your top arm. And then softly begin to thread it under, all the way under, until it's on the back of the shoulder, and relax. Deep breath in, deep breath out. I always feel it's so nice to feel this shoulder stretch and the subtle twist in the spine. It feels better in wide knee child's pose. The hips seem more comfortable. With your breath, just see if you can let go. So on those last counts of the out breath, can you sink any further as though your body is just a soft mass sinking closer to the floor? And then lift back up onto your knees. Hand stays under your nose. And expand again through that side body, reaching up with your arm. Exhale, come down. Hands stay now under your shoulders. Flick your toes out to the width of the mat. Toes under. Into your cat stretch, really rounded spine. Let the knees hover. Down dog, wide down dog. Stay there. Take a few breaths. And then bend the knees and walk the hands back to your feet. So you're staying here in a wide forward fold, relaxed through the body. You can take hold of each elbow and hang like a rag doll.
moving side to side.
So a little flow now, just to create a bit more warmth and strength through the body before we come into our flow. Bend the knees, walk the hands out into a plank. Hold your plank. Start to feel the power in your body. Bend the knees, walk the hands back. Fingertips on the floor, a deep bend in the knees. So your hips are right down, eye gaze forward, and palms together and begin to rise up. Press into the ground as you lift up. And exhale, we come back down, thumbs to forehead, melt. Hands to the mat, into your forward fold, stay here. And bend the knees and walk the hands back to your plank. Holding your plank, lengthening the body. Beautiful. Bend the knees, walk the hands back. From your forward fold, fingertips to the floor, drop the hips, eye gaze forward. Really focus on this big drop, pressing into toes, palms together, roll up. And exhale again, thumbs to forehead, melt, hips sink down. Then lengthen the legs, stay in a beautiful fold, enjoy that. Soften legs, walk on out to plank. Holding your plank, rounding the upper back. Bend the knees and walk the hands back. From here, bend the knees deeply, fingertips to the floor, eye gaze forward to the horizon. And then palms together, roll up, press into the ground and lift up. Let's do it once more. Exhale, fold. All the way down. Stay in your fold, enjoy. Bend the knees, walk on out to plank. So you become like a delicate little spider walking out, walking back. It's not clumsy or awkward. Walk back in. Holding, stay in your forward fold. Relax, ribs to thighs. Bend the knees, eye gaze forward. And roll up. Press and roll. So we're going to do it once more, but this time I want you to imagine that you are a delicate little butterfly or spider and everything is soft, melting softly, softly. Hold your fold. Bend your knees, eye gaze forward. Softly walk your hands out. Softly. Nice. Softly walk back. Beautiful, really nice, nice, beautiful space in your body there. Bend your knees, eye gaze forward. Lovely, roll up. Oh, you look amazing, guys. Roll up, beautiful. Yeah, lovely. Okay, from your forward fold, this time hands to heart center. So keep the feet really wide, feet to the width of the mat. Inhale, arms lift. This time, arms wide as you fold all the way down. Inhale, flat back extend, hands to thighs. So a really long spine. Long breath in, deep breath out. And then back to your fold. Stay and breathe. Bend the knees a little. Tiptoe out or creepy crawly out to your plank. Holding your plank. And from plank, down dog. Now you might need to move your hands just a little, but not too much. So wide down dog. So again, a small flow here. And the flow is based on our first sequence. So bend the knees, eye gaze forward. Right foot steps to the outside of the right hand. Back knee down. Inhale, lift. Arms rise. You can keep the toes under for the back leg. Exhale, lower. Back knee up. Down dog, wide down dog. Bend the knees. Left foot to the outside of your left hand. Back knee down. Inhale, rise up. Small extension here, small back extension. And exhale. Oh, so I'm going to repeat that a few times. I'm going to modify. You carry on exactly the same if you want. Now, if your back is creaking, or you're not comfortable there, this is your variation. Knees down. And then foot forward. Maybe just one arm up or no arms up. And tuck your toes. So you know, keep moving. Keep moving as long as you come back to wide dog. Variation, knees down. Then the leg comes forward. Excellent. And then lift up. So move through that once more. Looking good. We're aiming for this fluidity of motion through the hips and the back. Looking good. Nice, Lissy. Yeah. Lovely, lovely. Nice, Kerry. Really good. Lovely, Anne. And once you've done even sides, come back to down dog. All right, Anita? Yeah, good. Once you've done both sides, we'll finish in wide down dog. And take a few breaths. And from wide dog, come into your plank, knees down, relax toes, and then thighs come to the mat, then hips, then ribs, all the way down. We're going to reverse this. This is our next little sequence. So inhaling up, legs are still wide, toes can stay out, into wide knee child's pose. Move up into your cat, rounding the spine, thighs down, hips down, eye gaze forward, and lastly ribs and chest, eye gaze down. To reverse, eye gaze up, pressing into hands, back into your wide knee child's. Now this should feel really good in your body. If you have any real issue with your lower back at the moment, you might want to keep your knees closer together or move your upper body as one so you don't have this extension in the spine. My back is a little creaky, but this feels good in my body if I move slowly and mindfully. So the process is this beautiful rounding through the spine, and then this soft and supported extension as you roll down. If you want more, feel free to come into up dog at any stage, either with legs up or down, and then back. The only objective really is to have a flow. Just to flow, to move the body through these different planes of motion, noticing how it feels. So in this yin and yang class, we're really tuning in to what your body is telling you. Lovely, looking nice. Let's do once more only. And then lovely, Sandy. And then when you finish, stay in your child's pose. Excellent. And in this child's pose now, you can take your hands behind you if you want to, even though you're in a wide knee child's pose. Try taking the hands behind you so you feel the heaviness through the lumbar spine. Just a couple of breaths there. So before we come to some yin, I'm just going to move through a small sequence with Trikonasana or triangle. We're not going to, we're going to really isolate that particular pose. So come back up onto all fours, still with wide knees. Toes flare out to the width of the mat and come into your wide down dog. And take a few breaths. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Bend your knees, walk your hands back to your body. Stay here in wide forward fold. You know that if you don't have to keep your legs straight in forward fold. Sometimes it feels really good. It feels nice to get that hamstring stretch, but sometimes it's too much pull on the lower back or the legs are too tight. So you can bend the knees a lot if you want to. Bend the knees, fingertips to the floor, eye gaze forward. Press strongly into the feet and rise up. Press and rise. Exhale, hands to heart center. Lovely. So now come to the center of the mat. Just give a little shake. If you have blocks, one or two, you might like to keep them to the right side of your mat to start. Take the feet wide again, just wider than hip distance. From your wide Tadasana, inhale, arms lift. And as you exhale, come back to that sequence in the beginning. Similar, bend the knees, thumbs to forehead and melt down. So nice, safe rolling down. And stay here and move around. Softly moving side to side. A little bit of a stretch through the adductors. Now, if you practice yoga a lot, or you're quite mobile, or you want a little more work, feel free to take the legs wider here. From your wide movement, take the toes forward. Bend the knees a little, hands to thighs. Draw in through the belly and roll up. Inhale, lift. Exhale, arms behind. Interlace fingers, press the knuckles down. And then spiral your right toes towards the edge of the mat. Now soften the knee joints so you have nothing locked. And there's no right or wrong with the position of your feet. We're not into Iyengar yoga where things have to line up. You're going to bend deeply and bring the hands together. Inhale, and then expand into a warrior two. And do that a few times. So bending, it's like you're pulling up some beautiful daffodils. They'll be out soon. And then expanding into warrior two. Inhaling. Pressing out, warrior two. So the only thing to be mindful of here is that we don't really want this foot to be so far in that the knee is coming too far over, because it's going to put undue pressure on your knee or your adductor. So keep it as wide as you can, but you don't have to go deep. You might stop here. One more. Inhaling. Exhaling, warrior two. Stay. And then relax with your arms. Soft, mobile. Forearm comes to thigh. Imagine those daffodils, we've got to replant the bulbs. So we're bending down with your left hand, finding the daffodils, and then pulling them up. And as you pull the daffodil bulb up, straighten that left leg and reach tall. We do that a few times. So we're really finding this softness melting. I'm sure I've told you before that my very first job was planting daffodils in a 100-hectare farm in Burnie, Tasmania. I've always been quite a conscientious person. On my first day, all these
what do you call furrows, trowels were dug. We just had to plant the bulbs certain spacing apart. And I went like a demon. Inhale, lift up. Stay there. Stay high. I'll tell you part 2 in a minute. Take your arm behind your back. We're going to make our way into Trikonasana. So this is where your blocks might come in handy if you want to. 1 or 2. Before we extend the top arm, play around with how this feels in your body. So maybe you'll keep a bend in the knee, maybe you'll straighten. Only when you feel ready, you can expand into your full Trikonasana, expression of Trikonasana. But there's no wrong or right. We're not really beating around through the body here. It's just exploring space and length. Maybe you'll continue to move. Maybe you'll come down and then expand. Really nice. Really nice, guys. Okay, and then pause in your final expression of triangle. And melt down. Bend the knee, come back to your center. If you use the block, side block, shuffle it over to the other side, and then just take a release, side to side. Notice how that SI joint and the right side of the lower back feels now. Melting, always coming back to this liquidy fluid flow. And then with your toes forward, your knees bent, hands come to thighs. Round the spine and roll up. Inhale, reach tall. And exhale, arms behind. Holding on to the shoulders, so the elbows, wriggling the shoulders back. And spiral your left toes out. Feel free to play around what feels good through the feet, through the legs. What messages are being sent up from the feet through the joints into the pelvis and the spine. And then let's begin melting down, softening, picking up your daffodil bulbs like I did many years ago and pressing. So this is a soft fluid flow. Only thing to check is to melt the joints down. And then when you come back up, you bend the left, press. So after, on my first job, it was about mid-afternoon. I'd worked like a demon for probably 7 hours, planting my daffodil bulbs. And it was all very organized. So we just put the bulbs in and then somebody came around and sort of buried the bulbs. At about 3 o'clock, my supervisor came over and looked at what I was doing and said, "You've worked really quickly, that's very impressive. Have you planted the entire 2 hectares in this manner?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, that's a shame because we've got to dig them all up. You planted them upside down." So who knew? I mean, really it's a fault of their training, isn't it? I just assumed that anything with bulbs and shoots would go up, sprout upwards. But oh no, daffodil, you've got to swim. So I got the sack, actually. It was my only job I ever got the sack from. All right, after a couple more, stay here in your warrior 2 and take your hands behind. I guess you could put it down. I mean, I was only 17. I thought I was being logical. But... So one thing I've never excelled at or added to my CV is a daffodil bulb planter. Free the arms, inhale, lift. And as you exhale, bring the forearm to the thigh and drop down into the hips. So again, you're feeling this weight of gravity. Okay, we come back to our pulling up. This is me having to pull up my wrongly planted daffodil bulbs. And melt down, really melt down. And then reach and pull up, inhale and lengthen. Try that as many times as you want to. But as you go down, really notice this space through the lumbar and across the hips through the SI joint. Bending, inhale, lifting.
How far back can your arm go? One more. And then wrap your arm behind. And anywhere you want to, with a block or without, it's coming to your Trikonasana. So be patient with your body. You don't have to lock out that knee at all. Start to really begin to turn. So shoulders come back. You might always keep a little softness in both knee joints. You might reach up tall, or you might do what you did on the other side. You might just soften and then expand. Reconstruct to deconstruct. Always from the base up, never top down. So we always have this firm, strong resilience, this grounding. We let the bones and the anatomy stack itself comfortably. Stay, and then find your final expression of Trikonasana. Beautiful. Looking amazing, guys. Lovely. And then relax, hands down. Bring the hands back to center. Walk the feet in. And any way you want to, tuck one leg behind and roll back onto your back. Hug the knees. Gentle roll side to side. Releasing. Then you can take the kneecaps, do random circles through your legs. So the hip sockets, the femur bones get to move around freely in the hip socket. The hip bone, the femur and the hip is one of the only, I can't remember how many there are. I think there's 3 ball and socket joints in our body. There might be more, but the hip, this hip socket is a very complex, quite amazing construction, really, the ball and socket joint. And the femur bones should have a lot of range of motion there. Okay. Hug the knees into the chest. Bring the head up. Make yourself a tiny, tiny ball. Pull the belly in. And any way you want to, roll up, rock up, or support your body with your elbows. If you're rocking and rolling, try a few. It's nice for the body to rock and roll. It's really good for the spine. And after a few, come up to seated. Excellent. So I've changed my mind about the yin poses now because I got sidetracked with daffodil bulbs. And so we're going to still do a lovely release through the back, but then I will come to shoulders. I was going to do pigeon, but we'll do that next week because we've moved on from our 3-legged dog. So in this position, I'll turn my mat upside down so you can see better. Take as many cushions as you can lay your hands on, or a bolster if you've got one. And lengthen your legs so that this knee joint, so this is, if you're watching me, my left hip is in line with the knee joint and the heel is pushing out in line with the knee. The front leg can be any way you want to. So the spine has to be quite soft. Then you're going to rotate, turn and look over the cushions. I know you have maybe different types of support here. So play around with whatever's comfortable. The end pose is simply to lay your belly down. Easier option is to keep the same cheek as knee up. If you want more of a twist, turn your head. And then begin to soften. So this might require, you will need quite a few cushions or a bolster. If you've got a low cushion, it's not going to be comfortable for you. That's it. And you can, or a blanket. If it's too much, if the twist is too much to the lumbar, bring the knee in a little more and that softens. If you want more of a twist, push the knee out further. Okay, that's quite intense. So there really is no wrong or right, and you want to wriggle around until you feel completely comfortable in that position. Well, comfortable. There'll be a bit of a sensation in your lower back and in your hips. There certainly shouldn't be any pain. Just breathe. So you're just going to hold this for 3 minutes today. Good. And start to give way through your shoulders. Relax through your shoulders. Relax through your upper body. Feel free to modify if you want to. This is such a beautiful pose if you have been sitting a lot or doing things on a sagittal plane, running, walking. It's not a good pose, and I know your back was a bit grumbly, so be mindful. You might want to come out of this at any stage. Just listen to your body. And start to connect with the breath, using your breath to come deeper. So for most of you, I can see that your body is in position and it looks comfortable, as in you are there. Some of you could soften your shoulders a little more. And be mindful of the upper cervical spine, the neck. You might want to turn your head the same way if it's a different way. For the last minute, just let your mind wander through your body. Where are you feeling this? What feels good? What feels tight? Letting go and allowing gravity to pull you deeper. Imagining all those tiny muscles around the vertebra beginning to spread, release. So coming to the last 3 breaths. And then very slowly to come up out of it, pressing into your hands. You can scoot the bolster or the cushions away or lie somewhere else, but just come onto your back with the feet to the width of the mat and knees fall in. Just let the spine come back into a neutral position. So really let go through the shoulders. It should feel quite nice now through the lumbar. Settling for a full minute to let the rebound effect settle through the spine, the whole of the spine. And then slowly roll to one side. And gently Make your way to seated. You can turn away or move the cushions, whatever is best for you. And then set yourself up on the other side. So the only real things to remember are that the knee ideally is in line with the hip, the back leg. The ankle is kicking away, so the ankle is in line with that knee. And then bring the cushions right into the hip bone, so you can start to feel this rotation through the body. Again, one side might be really different, so you might have a completely different sensation here. You walk the hands out. You're aiming to get your sternum, your belly button down, facing down with this shoulder dropping. You might start with the head looking the same way. So just take your time listening. There's nothing competitive about yin. It really is, the art of yin is really about listening to your body and working with your body to find out what feels best. Every anatomy is different. Breathing out to soften, let go. Scan through your body and see if there are places where you can ease off completely. Through the hips maybe, through the lumbar, through the upper back. And as you settle, magic happens in these final moments. Remember to connect with the breath, so feel this beautiful long inhale and a lovely deep exhale. We have 1 minute remaining. Are your feet relaxed? Your knees, your hips. Be mindful of your neck. Let the breath bring a heaviness to your body. Last few seconds. And slowly, slowly make your way up. And onto your back. So we'll come into rebound and then straight into Shavasana. So for your rebound, just lengthen the body, shoulders relaxing on the mat, feet to the width of the mat, and knees fall in. And if you want to, you can take your arms loosely overhead. And just relax. And breathe out. And as we head now into Shavasana, feel free to make this a really lovely Shavasana. So you might want to prop your lower legs up, or prop the bolster or the cushions under the knees. Or you might want to prop your upper body up. So this is not for you if you have any grumbling lower back, but modified fish pose is a nice way for those of you who are on your desks a lot or working. So in this pose, use blocks if you want to support your head, but the aim is that you let the shoulders fall down off the side of the blocks or the side of the cushions, sorry. So you've got this opening. And then just begin to settle. So however you are choosing to support your body in Shavasana, make it suitable for you at this time. So if you just want to settle in Shavasana, traditional, then please do. You have endless props around you. Use them if you like. And begin to melt into the mat. Find your breath. Noticing the deepening of the breath. An expansion through the ribcage. Let all of your muscles, your bones sink into the mat. Notice how lovely it feels to be without purpose or intention. how lovely it is to be still, to be supported. Taking these few moments just for you. Creating space in your body and your mind. Carving out this time to come a little closer to yourself. Knowing that what is happening around you is secondary to what is happening within you. So whilst we find ourselves in a crazy time, you can escape that by coming into Shavasana, into a yoga practice, into your breath, coming under your skin. This really is the only truth that we need to support us through every day. Our bodies, our minds, our health. Everything else comes and goes, changes. Even relationships are secondary to that one critical relationship of you with yourself. Remember to honor that. You are a better person, a better friend, a better partner, a better mother, a better son or daughter. If you honor yourself first. Take a few final breaths. Feel free, if you want to stay here. There is no necessity to get up and move. If you want to, you can stretch in your own way. Roll to one side. Make your way to seated as you usually do. But similarly, you might just stay where you are. If you're staying there, just relax. Keep your eyes closed. If you're up, join me for a breath. Bringing hands to heart center. Namaste, everyone. I am so thankful for you for joining me, today. Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to have your support, and it's lovely to know that you're there. I will be around on a Friday. If you want to, you can unmute yourself. We might be sleeping, so you can stay sleeping.
Thanks, Debs. That was lovely.
Oh, my pleasure. I went totally off track. That was nothing like the class I was meant to do. I'm sorry.
We would never have known.
No, we don't know.
It was perfect. Thanks, Deb. Absolutely perfect.
Oh, I'm glad, Anne. It's nice to have you.
Perfect.
I hope you're right. I hope you didn't think that I'm, a worse person for failing at daffodil planting.
They've gone right off you now.
I know. It was quite a soul destroying experience for a
I
17.
can imagine. What a waste.
I know. Oh no, they dug them all up and had to replant them.
But they supervised you when you were starting. So.
Sorry, John?
You supervised you when you were initially doing it.
Well, that's it. Nobody. I must have given off this aura that I was, fully competent.
Daffodil expert.
Transfer their error back onto you, haven't they?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that he did say that he did leave most of them actually, and he said that it didn't matter. It's just that my hectare of daffodils would actually rise up about a week later than the rest because they do actually go. So he said it's not a tragedy. It's just that 57 acres hectares will bloom at one stage, and my hectare will bloom later.
Probably a good thing.
More daffodil time for everyone to enjoy.
Well, exactly.
More daffs for your money.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Deb. I'll see you Friday.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Friday.
Good Friday, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Lovely to see you, Anita.
Bye.
Hi, Ernie. Nice to see you, Anne and Anita. Say hello. And Kerry. Bye. You don't know how to unmute yourself, do you, Anita? No, what a donkey. See ya. Bye. Where is it? It's up. I'll ask to unmute you.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, thank
I'm
you.
so stiff. That was great.
Oh, good. I did a